Well, good morning, class. Sorry I can't be with you today. I'm on a field trip with the journalism class to University of Maryland. So I wanted you to watch this video and complete the handout that is under the Persepolis resources page. I wanted to give you this introduction today to talk a little bit about this genre of graphic novels, which you may not have encountered before, and also to give a little background context, historical context to the story that we're going to read. I really enjoy teaching this story of a young girl who, Marjane Satrapi, who lives through the Iranian Revolution in 1978, 1979, and through the Iran-Iraq War in the mid-'80s. And it's really kind of the story of her struggle to live through that context, but also to kind of find her own identity and find her own kind of belief system, which of course we all can relate to. So it fits in with individual and society as a theme, and it's a great story for kind of understanding literature in a new form, and also it is great for learning about a new culture. So we'll call this graphic novels, not comics. Graphic novels are a hybrid of graphic art and prose fiction. Graphic novels are their own literary form. Graphic novels are longer and more complex. They tell a story from start to finish instead of a serialized form, although there is a Persepolis too. And graphic novels often take on big ideas. And so, this is sort of a bit of semantics, but one connection we might make to Brave New World is, graphic novels, some might say, is higher art, deals with bigger issues, deeper meaning, versus comics, which is maybe lower art, and while it can touch on bigger issues, it's often kind of serialized, just entertainment. So graphic novels are going to be important to understand, so we can kind of see the depth of meaning in the words, but also the images. Here's an interesting image of God facing off against Marx. And so in this image, there's sort of a showdown, and as we'll see, this is a good representation, because this is really Marjane struggling with these two ideologies, and that's represented in these images, in this image. And so graphic novels are a good, interesting way to convey ideas. We have to remember that Marjane Satrapi is still alive today, and use this medium to tell her story. And I think we want to think, as we read about, why would this be more engaging as a graphic novel than, say, just a regular prose piece of nonfiction. Okay, so as I said in the previous slide, you want to consider the words, but also see the images as concepts or ideas. So there is a physical description, but often it represents something more abstract. So how do you read it? Some essential questions. Okay, so consider transitions between frames. Okay, you want to consider the arrangement of panels and the use of ink. Okay, the way the words are written, we've got the speech bubbles of characters speaking to one another, but also at the top here we have sort of the narrator talking. So that's Marjane kind of reflecting on a time period. Okay, one thing that's tricky about this is a timeline, and I'm as we read this together, I'm going to be very careful about guiding you in when things are taking place, because throughout the story, like for instance, the first couple pages take place just after the Iranian Revolution, which is why she's wearing a hijab in the beginning, but then as we go on, it jumps kind of pre-revolution. So as you're reading, you want to certainly keep track of time and when things are happening, because that can get confusing. Okay, so the emotion on the characters' faces can say quite a bit. Okay, there is meaning in the gutter. So between the panels, we call them, there is, as we see here, the death in between. And so sometimes when we read, we have to sort of piece together what has happened to a character. Okay, before we move on to the cultural context, just some other terminology that we will be doing more with, but okay, some other nuts and bolts. This handout is also under your resources page. Okay, but we've got the voiceover. Okay, emanata is the facial expression, the speech bubble. So that's the conversation that's happening in the time. Okay, icon is the kind of symbolic picture. Okay, gutter happens between the panels, we call them. And we will kind of touch on some of these other terms later, but when I talk, and we are talking about this story, we'll be using some perhaps new terminology to understand the story. Okay, so back to the cultural context. Okay, this is the story of a childhood. So Marjane grows up in Tehran in Iran, and tells her story as a young Iranian girl growing up during a tumultuous time. Okay, the Iranian Revolution happens 1978-79. And this can get a little confusing, but essentially it's a revolution where Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, so the king of Iran, essentially, is replaced by the Ayatollah Khomeini. So this is a shift from a secularized state that's friendly to the United States to the 1979 Islamic Republic, which is still in power today. So where church and state were formed together. The Shah was overthrown for a variety of reasons, but there's too much of a gap between rich and poor. Many felt that he represented the interests of the West, Europe, and the United States more than Iranians themselves, and he, like Mustafa Mond, kind of repressed free speech. So this is Reza Shah Pahlavi, and in fact his granddaughter, I believe, or great-granddaughter, attended Bullis. There's a fairly big Iranian population actually in this area. So again, some of the issues, and this is obviously very complex, but significant corruption, social injustice, westernization, modernizing, which some did not agree with and wanted more of a traditional Iran, and economic issues led to a revolution. So, like many in Iran, we see Marjane support this revolution. Initially, it seems to be a good thing because the Shah is ousted. However, the Ayatollah takes over and turns out to be even worse. He viewed Islam as the one true liberator of the third world, hated the United States and hated Europe, and became even more oppressive. This is Ayatollah Khomeini. So the Shah is replaced by the Ayatollah. Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, of course, we invaded Iraq in the early 2000s, saw this as an opportunity to begin a war. They invaded Iran in 1980 and wanted to dominate the Iranian resources, but essentially the war brought no changes, only death and destruction. So Persepolis, Marjane Satrapi, middle-class family, wealthy family, and is telling her